Hey guys, and welcome to Crusher Convo, where we're crushing the conversation one episode at a time. I am going to be discussing episode 3 of Star Trek Lower Decks, which was the best exotic nanite hotel. um, there was a lot of TNG references in this episode. One little con, Wesley wasn't mentioned once, but that's okay. I forgive Mike and the team. I was just hoping maybe a little reference might have been mentioned, but it's totally fine. Right now, we are experiencing some kind of difficulty on StreamYard, so hopefully I can get this going. But I am super excited about this episode. There was a lot going on. And yeah, I think we would just go ahead and jump right to it. Now, I am live right now on Instagram and, of course, YouTube. So please, if you are here, please say hi and I will mention you in the comments. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. See, I'm already having difficulty as it is. Here is a clip from yesterday's episode.
See if you can get in good with her, Mr. Boimler.
Okay, yeah. There are a lot of kids on that hill. I can handle this. See you at the bottom, Braz. This canary is about to fly. Oh boy. Easy does it.
Canary?
It's hard to think of an animal that's good at skiing.
That was funny because there was a few things that I wasn't sure about. I was watching it at work and I was watching it at home and things like that. And as I watched it a few more times, I realized that the canary thing came from Jet in the beginning because Boimler gets, he's supposed to be going with Mariner and the gang to this hotel to stop the nanites. And then, of course, Boimler gets stopped by Ransom and he's like, no, you're going to be doing a mission with us instead. And of course, Jet shows up and he has no hands and he's talking about, canaries and this and like just going off and freaking out Boimler right before his adventure. And so so I heard canary so many times and I was like, why is he saying canary? And so I thought it was kind of funny because even they didn't understand why there was a canary reference. So we were all in this together. But like I said, there was loads of TNG references in this. I had they mentioned the Dixon Hill slot machines, the vibe tubes that we're going to talk about was from We'll Always Have Paris. And of course, there was a mention about chain and command because this is when they're going undercover. So Boimler is helping Ransom and I can't think of the engineer. Okay. He was pretending his name was Gilbert, but then he wanted to Billings? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. But they're going undercover, right? And so Boimler says something to the effect of, are we going to be wearing the black, like the black outfits? And so that was a total chain of command with Picard, Crusher, and Worf. So yeah, I thought that was hilarious. It was really of a fun episode. The one thing I was struggling on wasn't really the Boimler stuff. It was the Jennifer and Mariner stuff. I was excited that they were bringing Jennifer back. The last time we had seen her was when, Mariner got sent off to Starbase 80 and because they thought she was a traitor and this whole thing that had happened. I believe that was in season 3. So we really hadn't heard much from Jennifer. And of course, we just assumed that they broke up. Well, apparently Jennifer didn't know that they broke up. And so but the way she was acting, I was all like, gosh, this doesn't seem like the same Jennifer. And I was kind of taken back a little bit. And I was kind of thrown off by her behavior. And of course, Mariner is kind of learning about herself as she was talking to Rutherford and Tendi and T'Lyn. She's like, yeah, I broke up with her. And they're like, well, did you talk about it? No, I just ignored her. She got the idea. And it was like, I don't think she did. But for Mariner, it made sense because she's like, I haven't talked to her in forever. So of course we were broken up. Like we haven't been a couple. We've been on the same ship for this whole time. Have not seen her. So that's where I was getting a little confused. And I wasn't sure if I missed anything. Basically, I was Mariner. I was very confused. I wasn't understanding the whole situation. But so before I kind of get into the whole Jennifer and Mariner situation, Boimler's excitement to be with Ransom and the engineer that I can't think of And I wrote my notes on my pad. So yeah, he's just excited to be with the big boys. He was all, gun ho about this. Of course, then he saw Jet and got into his head a little bit, but then he was a little excited knowing that it was going to be undercover. So when he said black bodysuits is what he had mentioned, so I knew that was from Chain of Command. One other thing too is when they were thinking of their names, this was just kind of a little funny area. When they were, I think Ransom was like, I'm going to be Zach Ransom, because they weren't going to be undercover in a sense of being like little ninjas. They were going to go as bros hanging out at resort. I felt like they were in Ryza. I remember seeing the Ryza thing. So I'm like, are they in Ryza, or is this just a place that's supposed to mimic certain areas? Because where the Nanite Hotel was, it was a like a giant planetary cruise ship, like a station kind of thing, the size of the moon that Freeman said. And so I think they were in there, so it wasn't Ryza, but they had areas that looked like Ryza. And I remember the bar said Ryza on it. So I got a little confused on that, but I believe that's what they were doing. Because I remember Freeman was mentioning in her captain's log when they were going there, she said it was a giant place that had different climates and, vacation spots and all this stuff. So it made sense that while the team is off trying to stop the nanites at the hotel, that Boimler and them would be off somewhere else in a different area of the cruise ship thing, however you want to call it. So, yeah. So I was wondering about that, but I was wondering why Ransom, because the engineer wanted to be called Gilbert, like McHandle or something, and he was like, no, your name's going to be Zandy, because that's a normal name. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, and this was like an on-running joke between the two of them for like the whole episode. And so it was hilarious because Zandy is not a normal name, but to Ransom, he's all like, you got to go with the flow, bro. Like that was just how he was acting. We have J. Marie, love Talin. I love Talin too. I am going to be talking a lot about her in this episode. I feel like there was a lot of growth in Talin's character and just how she has just changed over the season alone. Like it's only episode 3. We're already noticing some changes with her. So yeah, absolutely love Talin. Absolutely agree. So going with Boimler and stuff, that clip I showed you, they're trying to find a runaway admiral. Okay. And they weren't really sure why this admiral ran away, but he went AWOL, basically. And so first Boimler tries to like blend in with the locals, and he starts I believe it was here. So there was 2 species that they talked about, the Gallimites, which is what Ransom wanted him to talk to. But then he decided to go to talk to the Cretaceans, which apparently get offended very, very easily. And Boimler almost got his butt kicked until Ramson stopped him. So anyways, so he's, just like normal Boimler, he gets into his head, he starts making mistakes, right? And it was all because Jet had gotten injured, so he just thought that he was expendable to Ransom, and so he was just like, he's just going to use me to, so he doesn't get hurt, and I'm just going to be, in sick bay. Well, it was interesting because that's what you kind of get that vibe, because Ransom was all like, go talk to the locals, go do this. Even when they went and climbed up the snow to go talk to what they thought was a someone, which she was, but someone that was knew where the admiral might be. He was like, go follow her. And at first Boimler's like, sure, it's it's an easy slope. I'll be able to handle it. Of course, that's not what happened, right? She decides to go off on the very dangerous section, and that's when Boimler's having a heart attack. Hilarious while he landed on that. I don't know what that creature was that he landed on, species, alien, whatever you want to call it. And he's like, "You're touching my genitals." He's like, "Why is it on your back?" He's like, "Where else would it be?" I was laughing so hard at that part. um, so just wanted to throw that out there. It was so random, but it was funny. And also, I wanted to mention, so of course, he runs into that lady. He survives the whole fall. The scream as he's falling off the cliff. I can only just picture Jack Quaid just screaming in the studio, but it was so funny. It's the Boimler scream. We all love it. I'm so happy that we got to hear it. But he was talking to that female, and I guess she was I want to say a denobulan, which I believe, okay, that's Phlox, right? So I remember when I had my interview with John Billingsley, um, I could not pronounce the word. So, John, if you're watching this and I'm saying the word wrong, my apologies. I have trouble pronouncing things, but I appreciate that you really tried to help me out during our interview. Um, Denobulin. Okay, I think I said it right, but hopefully I didn't offend anybody or any denobulins. See, I already messed up. So that's the problem. I tried too hard. So I'm just going to leave at my streak that I actually said it correctly and we'll go from there. But I believe she was the Phlox species. And which I think that's only been mentioned a few times or maybe seen, but I'm not sure if we actually really got anything in lower decks before. Probably have, but it was just fun that they brought that up, especially because right now I'm in the middle of Enterprise. So I'm starting to know these characters. But yeah, so Boimler scream, he ruins the mission because he accidentally says he's from Starfleet. She takes off to tell the Admiral, but they figure out where the Admiral is. But the thing is that when they're trying to go find him, they're doing this little lazy river. Boimler's had enough at this point because Ransom is about to push him again into something dangerous. And he's like, Ransom's trying to be all like, "I'm trying to help you, bro." And he's like, "I'm not your bruh." I got to tell you guys something. I have a teenage daughter. She likes to call everyone bruh. Okay. And there's this ongoing joke for us mother with teenagers that we've been called ma, mama, mom, mommy, and now bruh. Like that's now on the vocabulary list. I don't allow it. Definitely you don't call me bruh. But I thought it was funny because Boimler's screaming at Ransom, "I'm not your bruh," because I just had flashbacks of me telling my daughter that I'm not your bruh. Okay, so luckily Ransom's not going to get like in trouble, but I just had a moment with my daughter when it came to that. So I had to mention that because I was just laughing so hard. So, anyways, they get caught. They get taken to the Admiral, and he's in a place called AWOL Falls. And it kind of looked like something from Survivor. Like all of a sudden, they're like handcuffed on the top, and Boimler gets taken to the Admiral, and he's kind of made his little retired nest there. Like all of a sudden, he's like, "This is where I'm going to stay. This is what I'm, no one's going to bother me. Starfleet's not going to take me back." And he knew that they were there because he said that the resort told him because he was an elite Latinum guest or Latinum elite guest, which is what I wrote on my thing. And as anyone knows, if you've gone to hotels, there are platinum elite guests. And so I thought that was funny. I work in hotels. My husband works in hotels. We deal with those kind of guests. And so I kind of chuckled at that point. Now, in my particular hotel, we don't have like platinum guests, but in my husband's hotel, they do. So it kind of brought back a little bit of memories of that kind of stuff because yeah, if you're on the top tier, you get a lot of perks. So that's for sure. But yeah, he's in AWOL Falls and um he was just upset that he was getting boring missions. And at first, here's another TNG reference and in Voyager, um Boimler goes, "What, like too many Borg missions, right? Because we've made the joke of we've had enough Borg, right? Like we're done with the Borg stories. We're good. Let's move on." And I think that was Mike's way of throwing that in there. But it wasn't. He was milking space whales. Now Boimler got excited when he heard that. At first he said the Gormagander. I don't recall. Again, guys, help me out. What a Gormagander is. And I'm sorry. I hope I did not lose my nerd card over this. But as of like last week, I had said I didn't know about Blue Orions, and apparently they were on TAS. So if you guys could help a girl out, comment below. I would greatly appreciate it. I even did a TikTok about it where I was slightly embarrassed, but I was thanking It's Got Star Trek for letting me know. So I'm happy. I'm happy to learn all these things. But what I did recognize was not only the Gormagander, but he said Galaxy Child's things, and that was that weird creature from Galaxy Child in season 4 of TNG. And that was the one where they accidentally killed the mom. Okay. And Beverly had to do a space C-section with a laser. If anyone puts down Beverly's skills, okay, just remind them that she did a C-section on a giant alien space thing. Like it was huge. Okay. The size of the Enterprise practically. And she did a C-section with the laser from the ship. So just a reminder that Beverly is awesome. Okay. So that was another TNG reference. And I was very excited because I recognized it. And of course, I think it was also kind of a joke because he was talking about milking space whales, right? And that was the whole point that that little Galaxy Child landed on the Enterprise because it was milking off of the Enterprise. It thought that the Enterprise was its mom, and it was quite sad. But it found its family, and so it was a happy ending. So, but it was just very funny that they had mentioned that. Now, after Boimler had talked to the Admiral, he was kind of like, "Oh, well, maybe I might stick around because my superior officer is trying to kill me." And Ransom admits that he wasn't trying to push Boimler into doing something that he didn't think that he couldn't do. He said he needed Boimler. He's like, "You're a smart officer. You know how to put things together. You know how to, solve problems quickly." He's like, "I needed that for this mission." So if Jet just didn't get into Boimler's head, he would have been able to handle this mission just like Boimler can. One thing that I have learned just in this season alone is that Boimler has gone from a very scaredy cat, oh my gosh, everything's going to go wrong character to way more confidence, way more confidence. Hello, Joe, saying, "Hey, I'm so happy for you to be here." Just talking about how Boimler has grown so much in this season. I mean, just in the last episode, which I believe was Shades of Green, he had to go save those 2 ensigns that were under him, and he jumped on that bike and was like, "Let's do this." Even though he was backwards, okay, he still has some Boimler moments, but he was gung ho, "Let's do this." Straight, did not freak out, right? I think Ransom sees that in Boimler right now, and he's like, I can really utilize this in these missions, especially these crazy missions, right? That's why he got promoted. That's why he's now a junior grade lieutenant. That is why he is growing up in these certain ranks. He is in a position where he can be that alternate Boimler that we saw with the beard and doing the Riker maneuver and all that stuff because he has the capacity to do it. And so it was so cool to see that and be able to witness more growth. And then he has to realize, I got to get out of my head. Like I got to stop freaking out about every little thing that's going on. So I loved that. And I loved that Ransom was all like, no, we needed you and we need your help. And so there was at one point, I can't remember what Ransom said, but that was at one point where Boimler was like, oh, you noticed, right? And it was just hilarious, right? But because he's just being Brad Boimler. But he clicked in and was like, okay, I gotta save my superior officers. And he just doused himself in suntan lotion and all of a sudden he was slippery and he got them all out. He didn't let fear guide him. He just did what he knew what to do. We're seeing this massive growth with Boimler this season, and I love it because he's still funny, he's still crazy, he still does the screams and the freakouts and all that stuff that we love about Boimler, but we're seeing Boimler's best this season. And this is only episode 3. Got 7 more to go. So I really wanted to mention that. And before we even kind of finish how, because the Admiral does get stopped, obviously. He gets a little crazy at the end and all the people that were helping him, they're like, that's not our vibe. Yeah, we're gonna go down to the next resort. Bye. So of course they succeeded in their mission. They took the Admiral home. So that whole Boimler section was funny, but it was growth and it just showed a lot of potential in Boimler. Back to Mariner. So, as I was saying earlier, Jen shows up. She's like, babe, sweetie, honey, giving her kisses, all this stuff. And Mariner's like, I told her we broke up. Oh, no, wait, I didn't tell her I broke up. I just assumed she knew we broke up because she didn't have my back and we haven't spoken to each other. I could understand why she thought that. Honestly, we all did because we haven't seen Jennifer. But that's where I was a little off of like, what is Jennifer's game? Like, what is she doing? Because if they hadn't spoken for that long, why was she just being all cutesy to her? It didn't make sense. And I was wondering if it was going to, and it does. But it was just kind of weird, especially it was kind of this roller coaster because at first she's all cutesy in this. When Mariner realizes that Jennifer is going to be reassigned, Mariner it's like, oh, well, I'll play along so I don't have to hurt her. And then all of a sudden Jennifer shifts. Like she just all of a sudden goes, why are you trying to keep us apart? And why are you doing this? And then she's kind of being aggressive. So the Mariner's super confused and she's like, what is going on? But they also have this mission to stop these nanites. And it's not even just, they're like little slug nanites like running around. And so very different than what Wesley had created, but they're trying to stop this creature and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like this blob. Like, has anyone seen The Blob? Does anyone remember the 80s Blob? Okay, that movie terrified me as a child. Anything with slime, I freaked out. Okay. And it was because of that movie. And that was kind of what was reminding me because they weren't sure exactly what was causing the nanites to go crazy at this hotel. Oh my gosh, I have to cough. Excuse me. So anyways, so yeah, it was just really weird on why these nanites all of a sudden lost their minds. Okay. And then it was also really weird on why Jennifer was behaving the way she was. The one thing, as J. Marie had mentioned, love T'Lyn was kind of fun in this episode for being a Vulcan. She was pretty chill. She was like excited that Tindy was here in her own Vulcan way, obviously. And she was mentioning they saw a poster. I wrote his name down. I don't want to say it wrong. I believe it was Krog. And I just want to make sure I say his name right. I don't think I meant yes, Krog. Yes. So apparently he's an artist that does the vibe tubes that we've seen in We'll Always Have Paris. And by the way, it was like in the cafe next to the waiter doing musical instruments off in the corner. But you'll see it if you go watch the episode and Picard goes into his holographic cafe, you'll see the guy with the vibe tubes. So apparently she's a huge fan of his work. And there are moments where she's like getting really excited, basically starstruck and just, oh my gosh, but in her own Vulcan way. And it was just so funny. And it was so T'Lyn. You know, from the moment we saw T'Lyn, she was very hard. Maybe too Vulcan, you can say. And we've definitely seen her soften up by being with the Cerritos crew, just like what she did in it was Shades of Green. She was trying to help Rutherford. She tried to help him with the shuttle. Then she destroyed it because she realized how important it was for him to keep working on it while Tendi was gone. And then she even added herself on. She did a little crayon sketch of herself on the ship. She feels like she found her family because when she first arrived on the Cerritos, she was contemplating going back to her Vulcan ship captain. But she had issues with that captain and stuff. And I think she really found herself being at the Cerritos than she did at her Vulcan ship. So I think this is also more growth for these characters. And these were just little side moments as Mariner's dealing with the whole Jennifer situation and they're dealing with the nanites. But it was a nice little fun moment to see for T'Lyn. It was nothing huge, but she ended up saving them in the end with Jennifer's idea. So yeah, that I wanted to mention, especially because J. Marie was like, love T'Lyn. And yes, we do. We definitely love T'Lyn. So anyways, Rutherford is calling these nanites that are glumping together the glumpus. So they're trying to figure out what is going on. And as Jariner, as Jennifer had called them, are fighting, this glumpus decided to go huge and basically is eating everybody. It was like Pac-Man. Pac-Man was running around eating ghosts. Okay. So now it was up to Jennifer and Mariner to go stop this giant thing. And it looked like kind of like a D&D dice. Like that's what it looked. I was just looking for some numbers on all those different ends. But, T'Lyn and Tendi and Rutherford were all stuck in it, and a bunch of also the locals, even Krog. And so as they're figuring it out, all of a sudden, Mariner goes, we broke up. Like, we're no longer together. And Jennifer's like, I know. Now, Mariner's like, well, what the hell? Why are you even pretending we were dating? She's like, because you did it on your terms. She's like, you didn't let me apologize. You didn't let me explain myself. You didn't let me just express my feelings about what had happened. And then you completely ignored me. And I was like, okay, so she was playing Mariner to get her to admit and be like, I needed you to break up with me properly, not just on how Mariner handles things, which is brush everything under the rug, right? Because that wasn't fair to Jennifer. And she had to really get Mariner to understand that. Now, obviously, a lot had happened from when Mariner got put on Starbase 80 to now. So they probably were doing different assignments. They were probably doing different things. So she never had that closure. And now that she was supposed to be reassigned, she's like, this is my moment. This is my moment to finally have that closure from Mariner so I can move on. I was like, this all makes sense. But Mariner and her growth is taking a step back. She has to take a step back and realize, because she was always go, go, go. She was always focused on I don't want to say she was focused on herself, but she was always focused on just like not being responsible for everything. So even in relationships with her parents, always being a lower decker, she needed people to wake her up and be like, look, you are more than this. You might be afraid of growing into an authoritative figure, but there's a reason for it because you're good at what you do. And it took her friends, because she met Tandy and then she has Rutherford and Boimler, to get her to understand that. And even it got her to even try this relationship with Jennifer. It didn't work out, but that was her stepping out of her box, right? Stepping out of her comfort zone. So again, more surprises. And one thing that Mike McMahon had said in my interview with him is that when I had said, last season we saw her go full circle about her thing with Cito, how does that play in this season? And he goes, Mariner is freed. Mariner's freed. She's now like able to take that weight off of her shoulders of all the pain that she had felt from losing Cito and finally just move on with her life and become who she's supposed to be. Might not be a captain, it might not be, anything high ranking or something, but she's good at what she does and she has to acknowledge that. And it's more so than just hearing it from her mom or from her friends. Even Jennifer was like, I really liked you when you were bad, and that's what made us a good couple, and we're not a good couple anymore. She's like, but I still appreciate you, right? I still care about you, but I have to do this for myself. And Mariner had to hear that. And it worked, right? So again, all of this comes down to them having their closure, and then it's time to save everybody. And that's where the vibe tubes come in, because they jump into the giant glumpus, and the vibe tubes are in there, and they need to disrupt the signal so then it could just explode, basically. And so because Talyn was such a fan, she decided to use the tubes. It basically did this. It kind of, this is so horrible, but it reminded me of the crystalline entity where it was too much vibration and it exploded. I think that's what they were going for. As much as the crystalline entity was a horrible creature, it was really sad on how it was destroyed. So we're not going to get into that. But yes, that was another TNG reference, in my opinion. So anyways, they finally save everyone, and come to find out these nanites are being controlled by a very tiny, tiny little I want to say microchip. I don't know if that's what they called it, but turns out, and I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, here it is. It was a very microscopic Intrepid class ship, which I believe is the Voyager. And she was saying that they got caught in a parallel universe fissure and sent them into their universe. She was Captain Tersal of the Endeavor. And it's been a horrible month. To Mariner, she was like, only a month? Because at Voyager, it was years. It was 7 years that they had still been in the Delta Quadrant. So she lost her mind of only a month, but they were able to get out. And unfortunately, they're supposed to be small, but maybe not that small. And this is where Brad was like, or Boimler was, I know what can happen. And so the Admiral had something more fulfilling to do. I'm going to try and get this tiny little ship back to its universe. And so that was his goal, right? No more milk and whales. It was now time to help this tiny, tiny, very small little ship. So everything kind of came full circle for both stories. And of course, it always interlocks somehow. And of course, they're at the bar and Mariner's all like, yeah, me and, Jennifer just worked it out. And, we stopped the nanites, and Boimler's all like, yeah, I helped the Admiral realize what his potential is. And, they're excited for their for each of them, right, to show how much they've grown and how well they did. And, even with Boimler trying to grow his little mustache because he's trying to become like that Boimler he saw in the other universe. There's a lot to do, but he's definitely getting there for sure. If someone actually can answer this question, so do Andorians, I believe that's what Jennifer is, right? An Andorian. Are they always like mortal enemies with their exes, or was that just a Jennifer thing? I'm still going through Enterprise, so help me out. Abby, Chris, I would greatly appreciate it. So yeah, it was just one of those things that, we just saw a lot of growth with these characters, and it was really funny. And I realized, though, we didn't see Captain Freeman until the end. We heard her log, her captain's log in the beginning, but we didn't see her at all. We didn't see Shax, or we didn't see the doctor. So Tiana. So yeah, it was interesting that they were not a part of this story. So maybe we might have an episode or two where they really focus on those characters, because this is the final season. So I would love to see more of them. And of course, I love the doctor. So I have a thing for, orangish red-haired doctors. So, but anyways, and then, of course, it ends off with Jet, because Ranson's like, we have a dangerous mission. Let's find Jet, and Jet's running. So that came full circle too. But yeah, it was overall a great episode. I enjoyed it. I think the majority of the people that I talked to enjoyed it. I thought maybe it might be more of a scarier episode because it landed on Halloween, but it wasn't, and that's fine. It wasn't like it had to be. I was just wondering if it was going to be. Which I hope everyone had a happy Halloween yesterday. So check Instagram real fast. And doesn't look like we have anybody here. That's fine. J. Marie says, we demand either another season or some full-length movies. I agree. I would love more seasons of Lower Decks. I would love a movie. When I was talking to Mike McMahon, we had mentioned that, and he says, how awesome would it be if we were able to do a full-length, full-budget, 2D animated movie with these characters that we love so much. He had mentioned that he really wanted to write Gates McFadden into the show, but it just didn't work out because they were doing Picard season 3 at the time, and he knew that was more important. And he also didn't want to take the seriousness out of it due to the fact that, this is a comedy show. So if he had more seasons, we would have had Gates. A little upset about that, but I'm sure she is too. So yes, let's hope for more seasons of Lower Decks, because they're not done. We've gone from like our shows being 7 seasons, and now they're dropping them to 5. The problem is we were spoiled with the original Treks, except for Enterprise in the original series. We got 22 or 26 episodes of whatever per season. We're only getting 10, right? So it's a little different when you're only getting 10 episodes per season. They're great. We love them. Like Mike was saying, he was blessed to have these 50 episodes. And then I think with Discovery, they landed maybe in the 60 mark or something, because I think some of their seasons might have been 13 episodes, which is not a bad number. I don't mind 13. But there's just more to the story that we would have liked to see. So yeah, I definitely am with J. Marie. I really want Lower Decks to come back. And it's not even over yet. And I'm already sad. Like, it just sucks. So yeah, that's just how it is. I kind of forgot again to do the rating. I did it this morning, so we got about a good 7 hours. Yeah, so let's go ahead and start with that, shall we?
By trichord.
All right, guys. So that tricorder rating, 9 votes. Woo! We got this. 22% gave it a 5 nanites. 67% gave it 4 runaway admirals. 11% gave it 3 canaries. And no one gave it 1 or 2 vibe tubes. So definitely a solid 4. I agree. I don't think it was a awesome, the best episode I've ever seen. But definitely not middle of the road. So I definitely will give it a 4. I definitely agree with that assessment. I had loads of fun. Like I said, it took a couple of times of watching the episode for really me to see what they were trying to do with these characters and what was going on. Like I said, at first, Jennifer just seemed off to me, which was most likely the point. But it took to the end to realize what she was doing. So once I kind of knew what was happening, I was like, okay, now it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm glad that that was there. J. Marie says, movie on the big screen, question mark. He would love it. I know he would love to have a movie on the big screen, or maybe a movie on Paramount, like we're going to get Section 31. No idea. It's a dream. It's not anything that's happening. But I mean, I think we all would have loved to see a movie. And honestly, yeah, it would be cool to see it on the big screen. Can you guys imagine going to the movie theaters to see Star Trek Lower Decks? I would go multiple times. I would have a blast doing that. Just a one quick check on Instagram. All right. So the next episode is called A Farewell to Farms. Again, don't know how to take that title. Not really sure what to do with it. But maybe I might have some help because I have requested Larry Nemechek to be my guest next week. We're going to be talking Lower Decks. So I'm super, super excited. Last time I talked to Larry was when I interviewed him last year. It's been a year later. And, we talked about his life and his career and just, him being a Trekkie and his life devoted to Star Trek. And so, kind of want to pick his brain a little bit as I'm still learning. Like even, like I said last week, didn't know about Blue Orions. And it was because it was a TOS character. Haven't seen TAS. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I still have a lot to learn. But Mike said, give me time. I'm new and it's 900 plus episodes. So it's a lot. But yeah, super excited to have Larry on. I'm very grateful that he'll be able to take the time with me to talk about this episode. Like I said, I'm not really sure what to make of it, but I guess we'll find out because, I wasn't 100% sure what to think about this episode, and it totally took me to a whole new direction. So I'm just happy to check these things out. Now, as I said earlier, we were having a little bit of technical difficulty when it came to StreamYard. So I had to do my slides a little differently. So hopefully this works. Just give me 1 second. There it is. So I want to go ahead and talk about Trek Talks, January 18th, trektalks.net. Follow them on the socials at Trek_Talks and their YouTube channel, which is Trek Talks Telethon. This is where they raise money for the Hollywood Food Coalition. I hear that they're planning something big. I can't wait. I am super excited. I don't know what it is, but I will be there and I hope to see you guys as well. And of course, we also have my information here. So you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Good Pods of all my audio versions of these YouTube videos. You can buy Crusher Combo merch at TeePublic. You can be a Patreon member for as low as $3 a month, and a Admiral Patreon shout out to Engineer Mark for being a Patreon member. Thank you so much. You can also buy me a coffee. Just do a one-time support. I am on Blue Sky, TikTok, Threads, and Instagram. And don't forget, guys, that all my Be Kind Like Crusher t-shirts will go to, the proceeds will go to Trek Talks next year. And I did change up the design a little bit. So if you want to check it out, just go over to my T Public store. I just had the Be Kind Light Crusher, didn't make any sales. And I had done another design called Do It for Beverly, which was Major Mel's quote to herself through life. And if you don't know about Major Mel's story, she is in Nana Visitor's book. She's in the back, and she's a friend of mine. Love you, Mel. And I decided to do this t-shirt design for her. And so it got a couple of sales. People enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, so I decided to kind of change up my Crusher Kindness shirt and added a picture of Beverly with some cool designs. And so, I hope you guys enjoy it. So if you want to help with the proceeds, and because like I said, all those will be going to Truck Talks, just go to my T Public store and buy the Be Kind Light Crusher t-shirt. Okay. But anyways, guys, this was loads of fun. Thank you to J. Marie and Joe Admiral Funnest Frontier. Total fun. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Thanks to those who have been watching. And of course, as always, I will see you next week on the next react and review of Star Trek Lower Decks. And of course, live long and prosper.
Crusher out.